Hello, I'm TDG again, and I'm back to talk about who I expect to be the worst pulls and worst Pokemon to sweep with in Shared Power Random Battles. And so I'm going to start off with the easiest. These are 6 of the most difficult Pokemon I foresee to sweep with in this format. And the easiest right now I expect to be Volbeat. And so Volbeat has a couple of things going for it. Volbeat, first of all, has recovery. And while it doesn't have a way to mitigate damage, it can stop setup. So something like Sableye, I think, is easier than this, because Sableye can wisp and mitigate a lot of damage if there's not guts. And become pretty much unkillable. This, it can heal itself. It could potentially get in to be where it's difficult to kill. A lunge is actually a damage mitigation, but it's not that great at it. It has lunge. Lunge is 4 times resistible for sure. A lot of boosts. It has enough going for it that I think that it's easier than the rest of them. The defensive typing is not fantastic. There's not a whole lot that pairs super well with it. But like Terra Steel could be nice with like Levitate. If the opponent doesn't have like a fire type or you have Flash Fire. It has some things to work with here. Or I think some of the upcoming Pokemon have very little. I don't consider this to be a particularly strong Pokemon, of course. I think it's one of the absolute worst, and what makes it the worst is it just doesn't have a lot of moves to work with here. It can pull U-turn as well, but I don't think that's particularly helpful. It doesn't have a lot of moves that it can synergize with, or a lot of abilities, I mean. For example, like Annihilate can run Chesto Berry, so it works well with Cheek Pouch, it works well with Harvest, it works well with Unburden, it also can run Drain Punch, so it works well with Shadow Shield, Multi-Scale, Triage, it has Rage Fist, so it works well with Regen, it works well with all the physical boosting abilities, because it has good enough coverage to do it, it can run Gunk Shot, so if it gets Compound Eyes or No Guard, it can make use of that, it's not immune to a bunch of things, like ground or fire, so any of those immunity abilities are helpful. Wind Rider's helpful, basically takes away part of its weakness. There's a lot that can help and Annihilate. Where Volbeat's, like, yes, it can have, like, those resistances. They're less impactful. Like, it already resists ground. It already resists grass. That's something to keep in mind. Those don't help it as much. There's not a ton to boost it to a point where like it's going to go crazy. It might need like Tinted Lens if it's going to be offensive, and it doesn't have a lot of ways to defensively actually sweep a team. So moving on to the next worst. Well, we're staying in a similar vein here. Not like these Pokemon have okay enough stats, but now the only reason Illumai's is a little bit worse. Bug Buzz is a little bit worse than a lunge or U-turn. Special attacks just tend to be harder to boost. Just a little bit harder. That just stays the case here. And there's also other abilities that actually provide immunity to this move. Or resistance. Like, for example, Punk Rock provides resistance to sound moves. Bug Buzz is a sound move, so Punk Rock makes it weaker. And if you get soundproof, well, then it's really, really weak. The one thing that's notable is you could get Liquid Voice, turn this into a water type move, and then you can boost it with something like Water Bubble. But that's like pretty situational. That's like very hard to imagine. You can also get Punk Rock yourself to boost it. I just think it's worse overall. I think Lunge is a better move. It is a level higher, but I would tend to favor physical attackers. If you want, all your abilities to work really well together. So I would say that Illumise is slightly worse than Volbeat, but it is not even close to the next 4. So the next one is actually Luvdisc. Surprisingly, I do not think Luvdisc is the worst. I actually think Luvdisc is on the upper half of the bottom 6. So some pros and some cons of Luvdisc. Some pros are it's really, really, really fast. It's really fast. It's seriously fast. At level 100, we're talking about this is faster than Fluttermane. This is a Pokemon that is actually one of the fastest Pokemon in the metagame. So that's actually kind of cool. It got really good speed, and water damage is really easy to boost. It is, because you can get Drizzle, you can get a Water Bubble, you can get Torrent, and with Luvdisc in particular, because it has Substitute, it can really easily get into range of Berserk or Torrent, which is quite nice. It sometimes with Drizzle as well, because it has Swift Swim. So there are things that can actually get this thing to be relatively strong, even if it has a pitiful stat for its special attack. It does have a good defensive typing too, even though it has no defensive stats to back that up. It is level 100, and some of the actual problems with it. There are many, but first off, you can see its stats are pitiful, other than speed. And those stats will hold it back from dealing a lot of damage, and it will make it vulnerable to taking damage. So that is something to keep in mind. It doesn't have a lot of move diversity either. So you're really only working with water moves, which is difficult. It definitely is going to make these stats, this set, difficult to sweep with. And that's why it is on this list, of course. It is not going to be an easy ask, but it definitely needs help, is part of the thing. It needs a lot. And water immunities are also quite common. There's Storm Drain, Dry Skin, Water Absorb. There's a lot of options that make this difficult. But I think that it's boostable enough and has some good traits that could make it conceivably good enough to take on a team. It certainly is a daunting one, but you can see that speed stat is very, very strong. So I would say that it's not undoable. So now we're getting into the territory where I think it requires a miracle. I think Luvdisc probably does too, but Glalie. Glalie is really bad. So it can also run Disable, but Glalie doesn't have a great stat. None of its stats are great, and its pros. Let's talk about its pros, because it doesn't have many. The speed is okay. It's not great. It's okay. And it can freeze, and Freeze Dry is a good offensive typing. And after all that, Inner Focus can kind of block Intimidate, but it probably won't help you. And that's about it. That's all the pros of Glalie. I'm serious. There pretty much are no other real pros. It has a poor defensive typing. It doesn't have a good stat. It's really likely to pull Levitate. It's like a 70% chance for a team to pull Levitate. And you're working with Spikes and Earthquake. So there's a 70% chance Freeze Dry is your only attacking move. Thick Fat is about 20% chance you get that. And that's going to weaken Freeze Dry a ton. It has a shallow move pool. It just does. Look at the moves. It doesn't have a lot of options. Those options can be shut down really easily. It doesn't have a single setup move, of course, which a lot of these Pokemon haven't, but it's not super boostable. You need to get your special attacks boosted by some sort of ability. It's not that easy to do that. There's not a lot to boost mixed power, and there's nothing to boost these two typings. It doesn't have recovery. Like, it doesn't even have, like, lefties. And, like, the Ghost Terra is not going to save it. It just doesn't really have hardly anything to work with here. And that's a bit unfortunate for Glalie. I think that it, has speed, at least. Like, you could conceivably just freeze everybody, maybe, and, like, get, like, Tinted Lens and a few other things, with Serene Grace, and maybe it can do that and try to make something work. But it's going to be daunting, for sure. I think this is, like, into really, really, really bad territory where it might even be worse than the next one. But the next one has, like, some serious flaws, too. Glalie is one of the ones I hardly see it being, like, realistic. So the next one, I also expect to be quite bad, and that is Camerupt. So now, this time, Camerupt doesn't have a good speed stat. But let's talk about the positives of Camerupt first, okay? So Camerupt has an acceptable defensive typing and an acceptable Terra typing. It's not crippled by burn. It's not crippled by paralysis. It can maybe slowly kill people with regen. It's not that bulky. Leftovers has some synergy with certain abilities. So it's something. Fire moves are pretty boostable. So, you can get Drought or Calcum Pulse. Opponent could have something that makes them weaker to it, like Fluffy or Dry Scan. There are ways to boost fire type attacks. And, but then we also got to look at Solid Rock also is fine. But okay, negative time, because there's not very many positives. Again. And there's probably more negatives here. So when I said fire type moves are boostable, they're also very resistible. There's Heat Proof, Thick Fat, which I already mentioned with Glalie. There's Water Bubble. There's Flash Fire. There are a lot of different... There's Drizzle. There are a lot of different options that lower the power of fire type moves. The speed is abysmal. The ground move Earthquake. Levitate again applies, 70% chance that is pulled, roughly. It's again a mixed attacker. It can't even easily get its speed boosted a lot of the time. Like, if you want to have, like, Contrary for Overheat so that it can, like, actually output consistently, then you can't have, like, speed boost. You'd have to have, like, Core Fill with Drought or something around those lines. Maybe you could play against Unaware, and then Overheat would do consistent damage as well there. It doesn't have a lot of recovery. It technically has some with Leftovers, but it's not great. It doesn't have any setup again. It's, again, got a really shallow move pool. It can carry Roar, which is a tool that can, make it a little bit easier to, keep yourself in the game to try not to kill, and get the kill later with Camerupt. So it has some things going for it. Like, Roar can be useful as well. But, Overheat Earthquake is worse than Freeze Dry Earthquake. That actually might be debatable, though. That's the thing, because there are, like, way more boosting methods for Overheat. And, like, there are ways to mitigate that drawback. But it's also just way slower. It just seems rather difficult. It seems like you have very narrow options to actually pull this off. And that one is my second worst. So my worst, I'm just gonna say, like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this one that's coming up. So I guess I'll go to it. And here we have Spite Ops. And the moveset I'm giving you on Spite Ops is quite generous. It can be a lot worse. Because Spite Ops actually carries a lot of moves. It doesn't have a shallow move pool. It actually has a relatively diverse move pool, but it's actually not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And Spite Ops passes a fantastic ability. It passes Stakeout. But not a fantastic ability to sweep with. And so other moves it can carry spikes and U-turn. So it carries 6 different moves. That's a little bit more diverse than these other ones. It's not quite diverse, I guess, but it's more diverse than anything we've looked at so far. And here's the thing. It carries 6 moves. 3 of them are entry hazards. So it's really likely to pull those as like 50% of its moves. And those are not going to make it easy to sweep. And most things get levitate. It has absolutely abysmal stats, terrible speed. The moves it carries are U-turn, circle throw, and knockoff. Circle throw, there are immunities to, and is negative priority. U-turn takes me off the field, and I'll need to find a way back in later without killing things. And knockoff is decent, I'll admit. So, what does Spite Ops have going for it? To start, I guess. It is a pure physical attacker. I prefer that over mixed attackers in trying to sweep things. It has a good attacking move in knockoff. And that's me having to say that as a pro says a lot of problems about it. It offers useful ability in Stakeout. It does. And it offers a way to stop threats to, keep the team going. With Circle Throw. But it's got terrible speed again, yeah. And it's possible you don't get almost any good sweeping attacking moves. It doesn't have a great typing. It has really bad stats. It doesn't have recovery again. It doesn't have setup again. And this time, you can't boost these moves. You can't freeze. You can't do much of anything here. And this is when I think I'm going to have an extremely powerful team to make an attempt to sweep with. And it's not necessarily that it's even that bad in the format. It's not great because Levitate is so common, but at least it provides Stakeout. So, it's not the absolute worst thing you can pull. It's just in this case, right, where I'm trying to get 6 kills with a Pokemon, that it seems really, really daunting. So yeah, these would be the ones I would consider to be the absolute hardest to sweep with. It's interesting that 3 of them are bug type. I may be forgetting a couple that may be even more difficult. Volbeat and Illumise maybe not 5 and 6, but I'm pretty confident in my top 4 in being very, very difficult. So if you enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe. Nobody's really watching my videos right now, but it's okay. I'm going to continue to put them out. So if you enjoy them, I'm going to keep releasing them. Be sure to check out my other videos where I showcase sweeps with every Pokemon in Shared Power. I have uploads on the way. I already have some sweeps. I just haven't uploaded them yet. So prepare to see those soon. And I hope everyone has a great day. All right. Thank you. Bye.